Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwaka Nimo. The huge profits from betting, lotteries and gaming are pulling in more players and generating not just interest but concern. Gaming, or gambling if you will, alone accounted for 2 billion shillings in 2013, according to the auditing firm PwC. Factor in the entry of sports betting and the projection exceeds 5 billion shillings. Gaming is legal in Kenya and regulated by the Betting Control and Licensing Board, the BLCB. They declined our invitation to the show today, but gambling is also a devolved function. And according to the Deputy Minority Whip in the National Assembly, Jakoyo Midiwo, the industry needs more oversight. His attempt to form a committee to investigate the industry failed. He's our guest today. We also have with us James Shikwati, the Executive Director of the Inter-Region Economic Network, an economic think tank. Mr. Shikwati is also a young, well, he was a young global leader with the World Economic Forum. You're not so young anymore, but we'll still have you anyway. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for coming in. And so, Mr. Midiwo, I'll start with you. And why this sudden interest in the gaming industry?
Well, I would have thought should I introduce the whole panel. Why are you forgetting me?
Actually, you're quite right. Let's start the panel. I do apologize. Yes, I do apologize. We have our panelists with us, Mutegi Njau and Charles Odhiambo. Everyone is welcome. Thank you. Yes. So now I come back to you. Why the sudden interest in the gaming industry?
Because I think something unusual is happening. There is a new aspect of gambling called online gambling, and that platform is new to Kenya and it's not legal anywhere else. It's not Kenya has no law making it legal or illegal. Gambling, as you may know, has a serious aspect of addiction. And Kenya, as an economy, we are good spenders. And there is no employment. And there's a lot of money on the streets. So it has attracted a lot of foreigners. It has attracted a lot of money-hungry people. And quite frankly, it's worse than what you saw as a problem of alcoholism in central Kenya. And it must be dealt with a lot of speed. And in the last 4 or 5 months, it's when this thing has taken off. So when you talk about people of betting and gambling, the licensing board, which has usually just been a cash cow for politicians, they have no idea what we are up against. What I am attempting to do is to address the issue of illegal money transfers, the issue of tax evasion, the issue of disclosures, the issue of addiction. This is the kind of thing that brings down a nation.
But Mr. Midiwo, gambling has been with us for over 50 years. You talk about online gambling being new, but it's still gambling. It's just that a new platform has emerged. So where are you coming from? Over 50 years with money laundering, tax evasion, disclosure?
With respect to Kenya, remember, the largest gambling nation was Russia. Until, I think, 1996, they abolished it because of the effect of it. We are being told now, without proper facts, that 6 million Kenyans gamble per day, and an average bet is 100 shillings. That is, you know, you can imagine the kind of what can happen if an individual put their hands on that kind of money per day. But it's worse, because when you see a company saying, I am sponsoring an English Premier League team, He's there telling you, I'm exporting your money. We go to borrow. This country just last year went to float Eurobond, which was 280 billion shillings. But if somebody is exporting about 1 billion shillings a day, it means an individual is exporting more money than our government is seeking to borrow. That is the potential. And in an economy that you collect 1.2 trillion shillings, that's our what we collect today in terms of revenue. If you lose 1 billion a day, it means you're losing 40% of your GDP per year. We have never been here. And that is why we wanted to form a committee to look at this new phenomenon and who is licensing them. There is also another one which is a big problem, and I thought the state should have dealt with speed, because it's also illegal. Somebody has installed slot machines all over street corners. I was called the other day when I came up with this issue by Senator Mutai Kagwe and told me, thank you, brother, deal with this thing. In Nyeri town, there is every corner mama mboga that once they sell their mboga, they are on that slot machine. You cannot gamble on the streets. You know, in the United States woodwork, you can only gamble in Vegas, in Atlantic City, and maybe 1 or 2 other places. The rest of gambling is controlled by the state, a state law for a specific purpose. You cannot have individuals collecting money and the state does not regulate.
There's a lot of issues you bring up, and so James, you being the economist, let me bring you in to this, because one, Mr. Mediwo has talked about you know, this aspiration to sponsor European football teams as being exporting of our capital, and then also this controlling and regulating and the social good, because we hear lots of money is being generated, but surely that should be a good thing.
Well, I think I agree with Mheshimiwa that this is something that should be of national concern, because first we need to underline the word generating money. There's no money generated. What's happening is no new money is created, and it's
not productive as such.
Yes, it actually compromises the productivity of the Kenyan population. Remembering that we're looking at our population close to 60% are below 25 years. So if there's no proper way of streamlining or creating institutions of how betting should operate, what we are faced with is a scenario where our youth are going to be betting the little money that they get from their parents, and maybe soon start stealing in order to bet. In my line of work, I work a lot with young people who own small businesses, and this question has always come up, because we have cases where a young person bets the entire income of their business and it collapses. And then we've had cases even in the press of some young couple divorcing just purely because of betting. So I think, in my view,
there was a case also of some student who was supposed to go and pay school fees,
and then committed suicide.
And he didn't pay school fees. He went to do that thing.
Yeah. So for me, I think I would want to address it from the fact that Kenya is a youthful nation, because we are young, the majority, and 2, Kenya is a developing country. So we have set goals to make Kenya develop. So what we need to look at is how does this betting then contribute to development, or act as a braking effect to development?
But isn't that enshrined in the law that 25% should go to good causes? Because we're painting it as a vice, and there are those who would argue that there's this 25% which ensures that you mitigate the risk of any sort of negative effect.
It's not necessarily a vice. The point is this: even in when you look at food, it's a good thing, but you can't just overeat, right? Just because food is a good thing.
Food is a good thing.
And if you look at even issues of pleasures, people like sex, but they can overdo it, right? There's always something that tries to streamline it to make sure that it makes the society focus on the energies that can make the society be there the following day. So I think for me, what we are not seeing in Kenya, and it seems to be something cutting across sub-Sahara, is that there are companies that are running away from strict rules in their own home countries, let's say in Europe or in the US, and they find it easier to operate in countries such as Kenya where the laws are not strict enough. So if you find a scenario where primary school teachers are spending the entire day discussing about betting, and probably the same for high school teachers, and then there are school fires all over the place, and you're wondering what's really going on, you discover that the energies of Kenyans are being diverted from productivity to issues that are not productive. So, well, a few people might gain, because as you hear, there are those who hit the jackpot and they celebrate about it, but you know, we rarely discuss the millions that lose out. So in my view, I'm not saying that it's a vice that we should really kick out of the country. It is something that we need to simply create structures of how it should operate, so that there's a predictable way of ensuring that Kenya does not lose out in its goals to be a middle income economy.
Let me ask this, because we have been having gambling or betting since independence or before. There is this kind of charity sweepstake which has always been there, and many other betting, like the casinos. And where did the rain start hitting us? Because it has been always there. Why with the concern now? Sweepstake has always been there.
I think there's the online aspect that is drawing in more participation.
And which Mr. Medi will respond to than that question. The
other one, which has a special institution where somebody has to work there. But you know, with the online platform, it means that you might not even know the age of the particular person who is busy with the machine. And then with the online platform, especially with the cell phones, as he pointed out, then you get a scenario where in the old days where people would be, let's say, in a pub enjoying a drink, it's no longer really a drink. It's about, using, I'm told there's even a betting for 20 shillings. So I think so what we need to look at is for example, you are a border person and you make 100 shillings, and yet there's a betting that is as low as 20 shillings. What's going to be the impact if you can bet the entire income of the day? So there's going to be a heavy burden on the economy in terms of if there's going to be rise in security. The Kenya government that gets more money from the betting in terms of tax will have again to divert those taxes to go and start addressing issues of insecurity. So that's why for me really it's about creating a clear streamline, the same way the government is working with the alcohol issue, because it's a good thing, it brings a lot of taxes, but the government reached a stage where they looked at the economic burden of health that comes out of alcoholism. So they had to put in place measures to ensure that at least they have some manageable way of you gain, but you don't lose at the same time.
Sir, you talked about, following on from James and talking about needing more structures. We have a law. It's currently being amended. In fact, you say it might come up for discussion today. We have a betting and control licensing board. So is it that the law is failing us, the board is failing us, or, why is there a problem?
Well, all those. But before I get to that, the day I raised this issue on the floor of the House, the next text I got was that a border rider next to my home had just committed suicide because he lost 9,000 shillings. Yesterday in the paper, and I think it's on the page 12 of The Nation, there is a lady in hospital in Nyeri whose husband just tried to kill because the story doesn't say it, but whoever directed him with that story told me, I know this lady. The husband just tried to kill her because she sold family good or property and lost it in a bet.
No, well, we can't be sure. I mean, that's hearsay, but the point you're making.
But I'm telling you, you know, it's not. This is real. You know, the school called Itirio that got burnt first. This wave of school burning. Why did it burn? Burnt because students were betting on a game and the school switched off the TVs. And why was the reaction? It's because the minister, the current good minister for education, has outlawed cell phones from school. You know, we're dealing with a very big social problem without a regulating law. And we must begin from there. So I thought the best way would be to put all these issues down and come up with a law. There is a law before Parliament.
Can I just check with you? How did you find out? I'm not sure that this is general knowledge, and so I'd like to clarify. The school, we know that they were upset because they were not allowed to watch the soccer match, yes. But how do we know that it had to do with betting and mobile phones and online gaming? That's a whole different...
I've actually taken my time to talk to the minister himself.
You've spoken to
the
the minister?
Investigations are even... These are not really... But
we're not privy to those investigations,
exactly.
right?
But it's a fact. What I am telling you, back to the issue of the law before the House, it's a law which was suggested by the state in 2015 to deal with tax aspect of gambling. But who knows? How would Kerry catch these people? The day I suggested that thing, I got a call from somebody from Central Bank. I got a call from somebody from Kenya Revenue Authority. Said, please help us. We do not know who these people are. We do not know what we are dealing with.
The winners or the operators?
Even the operators. I mean, this thing, the platform.
How can they run businesses in Kenya?
Exactly.
Registered businesses, and we don't know them.
This is what we are questioning. Here there is a couple of Bulgarians. Here there's a couple of Turkish people. You're dealing with something that may even be equivalent to a mafia activity. You know, for example, just a simple question you need to ask. How does a Kenyan company sponsor an English Premier League team? Using Kenyan
that seems to have really vexed you. Is there any problem with that?
It's big.
I don't think it's a problem to a company to support a Premier League or a company, to support whoever they would like to support. I think for me, the question is the productivity. Because I know for English Premier, Kenya, it's almost like the third religion, right? And there's always that question, why is it that people in Kenya, in Africa, they take this religion so much to the extent that they can't grow their own religion. What I mean by that, our own soccer teams. Because you get that now, it means even our own soccer teams then get trapped into the same game of betting. And therefore, instead of improving quality, they can also bet to even lose in order to...
those words that the referees also engage in betting.
So for me, it's really the question of productivity. I'm not saying it's a vice, because a lot of everything we do can amount to being a vice. But it's just a question of how to streamline to ensure that the nation does not lose its focus on where we would like to take Kenya. So we don't want to have a scenario where people take advantage of our youthful population and swing them to a direction that will not really make Kenya productive.
Is it really an issue of the youthful population or general vulnerability of the society? Because you realize this thing goes beyond the youth. It goes to older people, professionals, people with money.
Yeah, my assumption would be that if an adult decides to blow up their money, which they worked hard for, then so be it. They have decided to do that. It's a conscious decision. But we're looking at young people still exploring ways of making ends meet, And I also work with the university students, and I've had them ask that question. Should we really be wasting time chopping books, and yet we could just press a little few buttons and make money the following day. So it's compromising a lot of things where instead of, I go back to my point, instead of really tapping the energies of the country and streamlining them towards a goal of production, betting has come in as a way of diluting that. And therefore, it becomes important that we come up with ways of how to harness it, the same way, if you recall, was it Mututo, who came up with the idea that alcohol should not be served before 5, or somebody, if it has to be early, it should be a restaurant with food. So it's the same thing, you know, because you can't really kick it out, but then you need to put in place just certain streamlines to
Is there
ensure
anything
that
positive about this matter? Anything positive?
Yeah, it generates a lot of money, as you had for the company and for the tax. For the
but James,
government.
when you were starting, you said there is no money generated.
Oh, sorry, thanks. The point of generating here means the company has this amount of money out of betting, and then the government then gets this percentage as tax. But what I meant by generating, not generating, is really there's no new money created in terms of, let's say, I've added value to the coffee, so that coffee now sells at 50 shillings, and therefore there's something based on value brought onto the market. But you see, this is really not value brought to the market. It's just a matter of switching money from him to her, like that. That's what
more like building on capital.
Let me just say this. I was reading an article about gambling and social effects. In that article, I found out that only 2.4% of people who win anything from gambling improve their lives. The rest end up either losing everything or being addicted to this thing where there's no hospital to go to. Number two, as Article 95 of our Constitution requires people at my level in the National Assembly to deal with issues that affect society. And let me tell you what the greatest effect this thing has had in the last 2 months. Now, there's a lot of corruption in our counties, and it is uniform. So I always say that the greatest benefit of corruption in our society thus far is that money was circulating in the villages. Remember, the whole purpose of devolution was to spread out resources.
Wealth and resources.
So now, these governors or whoever is in the county, there is money circulating, but that money is now finding its way back to Nairobi. Even if you took away the criminal aspect of it, the only way, the money which was circulating in Siaya, where I come from, now finds its way back to Nairobi instantly. This is a social effect and a negative to this thing. And you know, it's good to always take time to think. Now, this money, when it comes back, how does the state know where it's going? See, all we are attempting to do, we are not even trying to put them out of business, but we have to make decisions as a country. Mutegi asked about charity sweepstakes. Charity sweepstakes was a result of Mzee Kenyatta. This phenomena,
and it was the first one, wasn't it?
It was the first one created by Mzee Kenyatta to mop up money for social activities. But he, in the same breath, he abolished gambling, unnecessary gamblings. Like everywhere else on earth, you know, gambling, because of its addictive nature, people go to casinos. Gambling should not meet you on the street. It should go like going to a bar to have a beer. But this new mobile platform has created challenges. In America, they saw it and made it illegal. There's no online betting in the United States of America, period. you can buy lotto. The reason why our constitution says we take it to the counties is because we were giving the counties a leeway of mopping their own cash and using it for good reason, the way governments are supposed to do. Same way Mzee Kenyatta did with Kenya Charity Sweepstakes. But nobody foresaw that somebody would create a platform where you can, you know why this thing is even a much bigger problem in Kenya? Because of mobile money. This M-Pesa thing is one of a kind in the world. It is a Kenyan phenomenon. So it is, when we deal with this issue, we must first of all deal with Communications Authority and the licensing aspect to Safaricom and to Airtel. This is a very technical thing and unique to Kenya. It's not anywhere where people walk with money on their phones. This is where the problem is. And it is a big challenge. It requires the state, legislators, requires everybody, all on Sunday, to sit down and say, how do we deal with this unique problem, which seems to be very unique to Kenya?
Okay, so we have to take a break now, and we'll come back to this point. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. To what extent should the gaming industry, including sports betting, be regulated? Our hashtag on Twitter is Cheche, and our SMS number is 22422.